welcome, one and all.
Welcome. I wasn't quite ready for that music to end, but okay.
It's just a quick sneak peek for what's happening this year, I guess.
Absolutely. What is it? Less than a week now.
Yeah, Fluttercon USA next week, and then later on in the year, we've got Fluttercon Europe.
Yeah. So by the way, I'm here for the day. For once.
Let's briefly get into the show and then we can get to the Q&A bit. Make sure you get your questions in queue as usual. But let's just some introductions. There is. My name is Simon Lightfoot, Flutter Community Leader, CTO at Dev Angels London, and you can follow me on Twitter at Dev Angels London and similar handles and other places. And Scott's here. So Scott, please introduce yourself. Sorry.
My name is Scott Stahl. I am also a Flutter Community Leader. I have been away for a little while. I have a company called Good Dog Apps, and I am usually running around making a lot of trouble, like I will be next week at Fluttercon USA, because I am speaking on the Flex, and the Flummoxed.
Indeed. And we also have Randall.
Hey, hi, everybody. Welcome back to our show. And I'm also at Fluttercon next week for my first time, so this will be a lot of fun. Talking about exceptions. Woo. For this show, I am the question magician, which means that I am watching the live chat going on right now on the YouTube. And anything that starts with Q:, I flag that as one of the questions for us to answer. And you will be answered pretty much in the order that you asked the question. So be patient. Sometimes it could be 20 or 30 minutes delay there. So I'll be patient for that. In real life, I am a Dart and Flutter Google developer expert. Been that way for six and a half years, something like that. And which means I spend most of my time answering questions for people online on the Discord and Stack Overflow and places like that. That's me.
And we have Ezra. Ezra, welcome.
Hello. I'm Ezra, and I'm also here for the day. I'm super happy to see Fluttercon USA, but I'm also crying in EU because we have Google I/O Connect happening at the same time here. I think it's unfortunate for everyone. I see a lot of messages like that.
I had to make a choice, and you
make a good choice because Fluttercon EU is also super good that you can join in September.
I'm really going to miss you because you and I can get into a lot of trouble together.
Yeah, there is more to come.
And Danielle and John can't join us today, but they're in our heart. I'll be around next week. And do's and don'ts. I'll leave it to you, Scott.
Be nice, be respectful, be constructive while on our chat. And I promised somebody I would say this isn't Reddit. Don't post anything that's adult, rude, or offensive or otherwise against common sense. Don't advertise or promote anything, including yourself. We all know you need a job. Don't spam the same question over and over again. We have a queue. Every time you ask the question, you go to the bottom of it. I don't care if you were next. You're going to the bottom of it if you ask it again. Harassment of any kind is not tolerated. No incels, no bigotry, no misogyny. You will be blocked from our chat, and we will pass your name around to everybody else so they can block you too. Lastly, have a good time.
Indeed, have a good time. And on with the stream.
Yay.
Ezra, you muted yourself.
I'm so sorry.
It's not a live stream until somebody says, "Hey, are you muted?" Yeah.
Yep. Pretty much. Goodness knows I will probably do that since I am way out of practice.
What was the phrase that was when COVID first came out, that first happened, and everyone went online? It was like, "You're muted." Was it? I can't remember. There was like every meeting there was like one phrase.
Yeah. Hey, you're muted. Always. That one's pretty consistent. Yep.
So
I made
I'm sorry. What are you guys talking on at Fluttercon? I've already said what I'm doing.
I'll let you know
I said what I'm doing. I
said what I'm doing. Talking at once.
Yeah.
Go around us. You say again.
Oh, I'm basically giving a talk on Dart exceptions, best practices, and do's and don'ts and basic patterns for use, things like that. So I'm still in the middle of writing it because we still have a week. It's not that close, is it? A week's a long time to finish a talk. I've got half of it. So it's not
You're
bad.
not a real speaker until you're
So you're
frantically
doing it.
trying to finish your slides in the Uber on the way to the event.
Yeah. I get that. Crazy
So,
stuff.
I was actually going to do a talk at Fluttercon USA because I'm going to host a few things, and I've got the one of the roundtable discussions to host as well. But someone dropped out from one of the speakers, couldn't make it, so I kind of the reserve speaker jumps in, and I'm now rushing to put a talk together. So far, the topic is building Flutter apps without widgets.
Without what?
Without widgets.
Oh.
So I figured that might intrigue people. So like get them into
Yeah. You got me. You had me at how.
Yeah, so we'll see how it goes.
We're going to see a whole lot of render objects, and
We'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's that kind of like just showing the idea. The concept I kind of got in my head is just that show people at like how Flutter apps can be built without widgets. Like the widget system on Flutter is just part of Flutter as a whole. And then basically to end up with, well, you could do it all this way, or you could just use the widgets. So just use the widgets. With the end of the end slide.
That might be a good place to transition to answering the only question we have so far, if you want to start with that, because I think it might take a while, and it actually dovetails immediately with what you're just saying.
Is Apple Glass? Hey, that's my job. Is Apple Glass a big challenge? Will it be different Cupertino flavor widgets that we already have, or any possible challenges that are coming up with this?
I mean,
and this question should be extended to also include the fact that there's a material update coming along too that also has impact in this area.
I think this kind of revolves back around to I can't remember the name of the
blank canvas.
Blank canvas, that's it. Yeah, so they did blank canvas. I don't think that's the current name for it, but
it's idled.
This idea of like doing that separation that we've always wanted, which is you have your base, which like there's actually one that came out. I think the last one was checkbox or something, where it's basically like here's the structure of checkbox. It does all the semantics and all the rest of it, but the actual rendering of how you do it, that's up to you to provide. And then the idea being that the Cupertino library can build on top of that, and the material library can build on top of that. So when it comes back to the material glass, the challenge of material glass is probably solved, from what I've seen, is basically been solved by the community, which is a lot of shaders and things like that, right? Like it's not actually necessarily the platform, right? And it would be a different set of widgets because they have a different UI style. But I think it's that kind of continuation of blank canvas, so that we can actually you can then have an Apple Glass and Cupertino library side by side working on top of the same base code. So
I think the biggest challenge is going to be handling the cross widget communication protocols, because it's, I mean, like for something like a slider, you've got lots of interactions. You've got the framework, you've got the thumb, where's the thumb, and all that stuff, and that might be different in different design languages. So how do we abstract that without abstracting it so much that we're back to the metal again? There's a happy medium in there somewhere to try to take what's common. And there's also, we don't want to get into the situation where, what?
No, on that point on the slider, sorry, just thinking about that. I mean, like you still have your slider based and it does a certain behavior.
Yeah.
And then I think it's a case of saying, okay, well, if you want to do it differently, you can still build a widget separately, right? You don't have to use those base widgets. The idea is just to speed things along. So at that point, we want a vertical slider or some other thing, then that's another base widget that goes into the base widget library that's separate to them. I think that there's obviously a line we have to draw between what the middle ground, as you said, what the happy middle ground is about what is specific to the widget and what is generic, right? But that's the challenge.
Yeah.
I think there's kind of interesting bit around glass stuff that I've seen is that the kind of question comes up. So something that I wanted to do a long time ago, which was kind of a similar line to the glass thing, which was they're called meta balls, which is like if you have two surfaces and they kind of blend together, right? It's just kind of what I've seen as other glass stuff. The idea is that you would have to have multiple widgets all communicating their locations so you can actually render it correctly. It becomes kind of a complex proposition. I think the same happens with the glass stuff because if you wanted to like give some sort of, let's say, gradient or it's like color effects to the glass surface that relate to widgets that are around it, like so for reflections and things, then that becomes like a communication problem and a complex problem to actually build. And for what purpose? To make it look nice. So like there's a certain level of this which is, you know, is it worth it, right? To do it? Where do you do it as well? So the most in the situation where you want this would be to push it down into the stack. So all that kind of sampling and everything's happening at the render layer when it actually chooses the pixel colors in the shaders. Where, when and how we do that is a matter of specifics, really. Yeah.
Yep. Well, that was our one question. Actually, we got another question. So.
Now we have another one.
Yeah.
As soon as a Flutter app grows, how do we maintain the code simplicity and the size of the code base? So I think this is, unless I'm misreading this, this is a scalability question.
Well, code simplicity. That means a lot of things, right? And I mean, size of the code base, that's the standard dry principle. Do not repeat yourself, right? Like the only way that the most efficient code you can make is code that doesn't repeat itself, right? Otherwise, that's it. You've literally brought it down to the bare minimum that is required to have that code work because it doesn't repeat itself. So if there's patterns that you have inside your code, inside your app, in terms of behavior or buttons or UI, app logic, all sorts, then generify it to, you know, remove that kind of repeated behaviors and simplify it. But normally it's a case of you build and build and build and then refactor to bring it down to simplify. I don't think there's any one like good answer to that, right? Maintain code simplicity is more about just make patterns and behavioral patterns inside your app and stick with them the way that you approach a problem or do something with UI or something in your app. It all depends on, your app specifically, right?
For me, after some point, I also go for use cases, which helps me to tackle which features about that and so on. Like mostly I don't go for adding use cases because mostly it's overkill in MVP for me, at least in my scope. But later on, then, you know, when I just want to do something, I'm not changing 20 files, but I'm just changing one thing. And if my tests are still running perfectly in the use case, then it's still maintainable. It's still simple to go through it, but it helps in a huge code base again.
Yeah, you can't do large refactoring work until you've got tests. Right. I mean, you can. Doesn't mean you should. I mean, there's more chance of, unless you can hold a lot of state in your head and you can really kind of like you're the person that made every line of that code, then you can figure it out like all in one go in one session. But it means that you kind of maybe doing a lot of long refactoring 6-hour session, just like doing a bunch of stuff, right? And you can't pick up more than you should because if you leave it halfway through and say I'll do this next day, you've just lost all context about what bit you're moving where and how much you got through it. So
next day, that happens after lunch.
Well, this is my point, but this is the point, right? That can be really error prone. So what you can do by having the test is you can know what you're doing, and then you run your test, you can see where things are failing, and it kind of shows you what you still need to do. It depends on your test coverage, of course. Obviously, the better way to do that is to keep your know that you need to refactor with stuff, but as you refactor, go, I could just do this a little bit more. Say no, write a list, write a ticket or whatever, and then kind of come back and do those things. Do it piecemeal, because you do too much at once, you end up in a situation where you don't complete it, becomes dead code and wasted effort, and it's not made. You've got to keep rebasing it if you got other people working your code base or whatever, and it's just really unmaintainable. So you need to chunk it up into pieces. If there is a case where you've got such a large piece of code, like some sort of framework or way of principles inside that running in the architecture of your app, then it's probably better to extract it into a module or library, and then you could then even provide a completely separate implementation. And in doing that, it means that you can people can, maybe if you've got a large team, can continue with the old version whilst you're developing some new, more performant, less buggy version or something.
One more thing to add from my side. Personally, I don't mind the size of the code base. Like, I don't care how many files I have or how much lines it is. Of course, I don't mean having an ineffective way, but code simplicity is, for me, I have the clue of how much does it take for me if a junior is taking over this ticket, how much I need to onboard them. Then I will go for whether I can give the simple chunk that you mentioned there. For example, we extracted in some cases design system with widget book, and then the junior, whatever we are about to do in whatever page, can go create it in design system as a use case and something. Then we would just pull it back to there. Or the teaming is somewhere different. It is not advanced, but it's just simple to go for, and you don't need to feel like archaeologists to just make one widget. That's kind of the simplicity part from my side. How long would it take a junior to tackle your ticket?
I mean, simplifying code could also just mean commenting it. It can just mean refactoring some of the logical behaviors, so it's more, it reads better, right? So it then becomes simple to understand, right?
Well, and
exactly.
on that note, one of the things I like to do is it's not just doc comments. It's going into your private methods and using a 2/ comment to explain in one sentence, just one, what is this whole thing doing? Especially if you've got a method that's 20 lines, 30 lines. And I know that's getting a little hairy, but when they start getting hairy is when you need that little 1 or 2 sentence explanation at the top of the method, because that's one of my favorite things to do. And also in my UI code, when things are broken up into, say, you have 2 or 3 different sections, in particular, like on a login page, I will turn around and I will put a comment that says, here is the login section, here's the sign up section, here's things like that. So you can scroll through it very quickly and find them, and there's no question about what code is doing what.
Talking about which, I'm sure we've got another opinion with us. Come on.
StreamYard is not doing what it should do.
I know.
Let me try.
Even possible.
Scotty, do you have a transporter lock on him?
Strange, because StreamYard is saying,
Can you just?
He's there. I see him.
His video's not working.
backstage.
He's connected. He's reconnected.
yeah, he's going to come back. That was really weird because in the controls portion of StreamYard, it was showing that he was on the screen.
Right. Oh, that's weird.
It's a frozen frame. Let's see what happens now.
Everybody's watching
this
the
is
stream.
not
Is trying
much
to figure
better.
out what the heck we're talking about.
Right.
We're trying to get
Let's
somebody
carry- let's
on
carry-
the screen.
Let's carry on for now and see if he comes back to us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So what's next? What's the next question on the list?
What's next? Jamil has got a bunch of them for us today. If you want to build Apple app clips or Android instant apps using Flutter, is it possible? If you can, Simon, tell us how.
Yes.
Okay. Next part.
I mean, Android instant apps are just slightly built differently. You have to build them. There is actually a page. I definitely know you can do Android instant apps with Flutter. Apple App Clips, not too sure. I haven't done that before. But I know you can do the Android instant apps. I mean, you basically just, you set up a module, if I remember rightly, for the instant app. But you can have it include the Flutter module from add to app. Basically, it's add to app. That's the way you do it, right? Just to be clear. But yeah, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to do it. I haven't tried to do it any other way. It was a long time ago. It's when they just raised it. I think they raised it 8, was it 4 megabyte limit to 8 or 12 megabytes or something for an instant app? I can't remember what it was. I don't even know where it is now, actually, saying that. I might going to poke around. But that was the problem. The real problem at the time, if I remember rightly, was they had a 4 megabyte limit, and Flutter's binary was 4.3, the engine. So there was just no chance of like doing instant app with Flutter at the time. And then they made it larger, and then I tested it and made it work. But that was
one thing that we ran into just now, I think, as Randall pointed out, if you put a URL in your question,
oh yeah,
we will not see the question at all. We will not see that you sent anything. So it's not just that it blocks out your URL, it doesn't send your message to us. So here we go, sharing code with Flutter Humpday Q&A. Simon, do you want to take this over?
No, I mean, like, it's just exactly these points, right? You head to the gist.new, enter your title and description. You got to have a GitHub account. Hop in, make sure your file name is .dart, so we get the syntax highlighting. Paste in your code and add your comment snippet or question or whatever else you want to put in there. And then you create a public gist. And then you don't share the whole URL because you won't get that. You have to copy and paste the hash. That's that highlighted section at the end, which is hexadecimal. Highlight that, copy that hash into your question, and then we can then open it up.
At the very bottom of the page there is an example of that hash.
That's it, really. There you go.
And then we can pull the hash up. Then we can hash out your question.
That's clever.
It is.
It's almost as bad as getting it into the queue by putting a queue in front of it.
Yeah. All right.
Had to sneak that in there. There we go.
Still hoping for Roman to get back in a way that he can get on the stage here. Yep. But in the meantime, is there a long-term plan for Flutter, as in 4 to 5 years, or is it just the yearly roadmap? As far as I know, I mean, it's very difficult to plan out 4 to 5 years when you don't know what the operating systems are going to be doing in 4 to 5 years. I mean, how far ahead did they know about Apple Glass?
I think here's the difference, right? Here's the difference. If let's say your software was a library that decoded a protocol or something, I don't know, like did some middleware, whatever it is, you could plan out a 4 to 5 year journey for that because it's got a finite control, right, surface. You do that with something like Flutter, like there's so many dependencies, such a large project, and a lot of it out of your control. There's no way you're doing a 4 to 5 year plan. Technology changes so quickly that all the mobile phones change so quickly. Yeah, it's like saying like, there's no way we could have done with foldables or flexible screens and all this kind of yeah. So you can make a plan to say, well, we might support this when and if it comes out onto the market, right? But normally it's a case of things change so quickly every 6 months that it's just not worth it to make a plan more than a year, right?
There's also the Dart language. There's the Dart language funnel, which kind of gives you some insight into more than a year out goals for Dart. If you're curious about that, I don't think there's the equivalent for Flutter, but if you look at the issues list for Flutter, you can see some of the things they've tagged as need solution long term and stuff. So you can always use that as a gauge of at least what people are considering.
So there's instructions on creating back to apps for a second. I was just looking at the things. There's instructions on the Android developer side for converting an existing app to being an instant app. So maybe it's worth checking that out and trying that. I'll pop that in the chat for people. So maybe start there.
Cool.
See what you can do.
Oh, interesting thing here. Google is discontinuing instant apps.
Is
Well,
it?
that's from Drumil.
Hmm.
So
Starting August 2021, new instant app experience. They would. Where did you hear that? I'm curious.
I just see some. Google is discontinuing its Android instance apps feature December 2025 in some The Verge and so on some news websites right now. I can see it when I Google it, but I personally do not know it.
I would not see it unless it's coming from a Google site or Google
Yeah, I'm
blog.
not sure.
I would completely disregard it.
that's a good point.
Oh,
All righty.
not
I mean, they
sure.
announce these things way ahead of time, and you would think
Yeah.
it'd be on the instant apps page. I mean, Google has confirmed plans to shut down instant app. Where has it confirmed? Interesting. There's a really good use case for instant apps, and I can't see them dropping instant apps whilst iOS still has play app clips on it. A lot of people still prefer to use. Depends on your app, but it's a lot easier to do like a PWA and then install an app based on that as a journey than it is to. I mean, I see it on Android Authority and some of the other places, but without an actual source attached to those, it could just be people repeating. Right? So.
Okay, so Lane,
No.
you were onto something. The question is your source reliable?
Here it says here. Hang on. Although apparently apps under 50 megabyte. Anyway, trimming app down size can be difficult. Blah blah. Few apps. While you can use those canary versions of Android Studio, Leon spotted a notice hovering over the instant apps dependency. This notice reads: instant app support will be removed by Google Play in December 2025. Yeah, okay. Publishing all Google Play APIs may not work. Tooling support will be removed. So apparently some tooltip that is related to the dependency in that you add to your Reddit script.
Drumil is asking if you can post the link you're reading right now.
Oh, sorry, chaps. Yeah, of course, yeah. Here you go.
I just dropped the link. Maybe you can check. The link claims that there is Google spokesperson confirmed the decision to The Verge. Specifically, they are claiming. But as I mentioned, I didn't see any Google or Android blog directly saying that one.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the screenshot on the link that I posted in the comments.
Comment? Oh, okay.
There is a little screenshot of where it's been read, which is basically on the catalog info for the.
Oh yeah, this one I see that one, and then I see the confirmation one.
I mean, look, let's see what happens, right? I mean, normally they give you a lot more notice than 6 months, right? I mean, December, yeah. Maybe we'll be hearing about it more sooner than later. Anyway, we'll see what happens, right?
All right.
By the way, I see Roman right now. Let's see, maybe we can. Not sure.
His camera's still frozen by the looks of it.
Yeah, interesting. Okay.
I think Roman's having a hard time.
Johan, what you're doing is our example of spamming. Repeated your question twice, and what it just ended up happening was you were at one point in the queue, now you're at the bottom. So every time you ask it, you get moved down. Please don't do that. We've already got you in line.
Yep.
Right. What's the next question?
Next question. Hey, look, Dramil again. One additional information, modular architecture or singular code base.
A single code base doesn't stop from having a modular architecture with both the thing, right? There's not one or the other. Am I missing something here?
Would you rather take your lunch or the bus to work?
So a single code base does mean, I mean, to me, means a single repository, right? Like it doesn't mean, it means that you've got one base, one sort of code base for everything, right? But even then, you know, you can talk, Google talks about its massive monorepo as a single code base, right? Like, and it's not really, it's kind of a repo of repos. But
yeah, I'm wondering if this is a question about monorepo versus non-monorepo.
That's not, well, and I think it's extending on this last one. It talked about architecture, right? And simplifying your app. Yeah, I mean, like I would be making like, it all depends on the complexity of the feature that you're looking at, right? So if it's simple, but this way, it's the same as breaking it down, right? You've got a large function, you break it down to smaller functions. You've got groups of functions that relate around one thing, you make a class, right? You've got multiple classes that work together, you make like a directory or module that they're all working with, right? And then you go, okay, well, now I want to have an interface on that. So you hide all the complexity of that large piece of code behind something, right? Now you can go, okay, well, I can take that, I'm going to chuck it in a separate package, right? Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Anyway, but the point being that, you know, that you choose how to break it up based on complexity and what you're doing. I mean, you don't go make packages for every little bit of your app and have like 10 packages to your project, each with one single class in, do you? I mean, I'm like, what am I doing here, right? Like if you find that you've got a piece of reusable code that you want to use in multiple packages, okay, then I'm going to extract it out into its own package and I can import it into the others. I mean, yeah.
Can we call it like feature isolation? Maybe better. That's how I mostly do in that part.
I mean, sure.
Sorry, I was just going to say we just got a Slack message from Roman. He's having internet problems at his office and is going to have to send apologies to everyone. He's not going to be able to make it.
Never mind.
Oh.
You'll see him next week at Fluttercon USA.
Yes.
Yes, he was saying he wanted to talk about Fluttercon USA, which, okay, we're already, come see Roman at Fluttercon USA. Let me look up what his talk is real quick. And everybody just keep talking.
Well, let's continue with some of these questions. I just want to bring something up before we go into another question. My app has 50 plus features and 100 plus packages as it is a super app.
Oh,
that's mental. That's absolutely mental. I think you've got way too many. I think you've definitely got too many packages. You need to think about putting those into one package.
Yeah, they'll do it.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, Dramil, is
to be honest,
yours or is this a team's?
Well, it's obviously a team, right? There's no way you're doing that. Yeah. You've got a lot of people working on that project. Well, I'd hope so. Otherwise, Dremel is stressed out right now. Anyway, so the thing is, right? You modularize your code for a couple of reasons, right? Like repeatability and like use, but also working from multiple team members, right? If you've got a lot of team members working on one file, you're going to have a bad day, right? Merging that. Whereas each, there you go. Like you said, there's 20 teams, and each team has 7 to 10 members.
You need to create a resource about how do you survive in this, and we need to consume that.
Do it all.
Oh my God.
You should be telling us, not us telling you at this point.
Yeah. But I think your problem you're going to get, Dremel, right now is the fact that you've got too many packages. I really, really hope you're using the latest version of Flutter using the workspace feature, because otherwise you're going to have a really, really bad day. You're going to get to this point because of the way that Dart works, where it's all source based. Yeah.
Oh wow!
1.5 million daily active users.
Yeah.
Now the thing is, I think that the problem you're probably going to have is with the analyzer, with the codebase that large, and you're better off probably taking. And if I was you, let's say managing that project, I would probably deciding to take a bunch of those packages and squash them into one package using interfaces to access each one of those features or the original packages. Because all the package is doing is isolating a bunch of code behind the next effectively, right? But you can do that within one package. And you get rid of the analyzer overhead of package to package communication. When you've got that many packages, that's where your problem is. You've got too many packages. Yeah, I can't even imagine. Like, you've probably got more packages than dependencies.
Probably.
Dependencies even. Yeah.
All I see is simplifying as possible, like having something like core checkout, core authentication, core analytics, something to just share everywhere in between, and trying to get the user structure and everything as close as possible, like using almost the same as possible to be able to like reuse it. Oh gosh.
Right. Shall we? I mean,
Okay.
without knowing anything more specific, it's a bit hard to go further.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, there's other things. I mean, I would say, sorry. So one, I said we'll stop, but one more thing. You may also want to consider what code you actually have inside your app. That is, A, is it worth it? B, can you dynamically load some of that stuff? Like, does it even need to be in code, right? Does it even need to be shipped inside your app? And you know, there's a point at which, yeah, you got too. I mean, obviously, it's as I said, it's a huge app being used by a lot of people. I would honestly start looking at what features the app is, how many people are actually utilizing what features of the app, and start, getting some statistics around that, because at some point you're maintaining code that isn't actually being used by 0.5% of your audience, and which that even 1% of 1.5 million is a lot, but it's still 1%, right? So you need to think about what are the features that people are not going to miss if you remove them, right? That you no longer have to maintain that code for, and all its dependencies and anything else that comes off of that. Also, what other languages can you use? Like, there may be there's certain features and things that you've got in your app that can be done differently and maintained differently outside of your main Dart code base. We'll see. Get the stats.
All right. Real quick, since Roman cannot be here himself, I do want to mention something about his talk. It is Rive, the final frontier of graphics for Flutter apps. He is in the 1:30 time slot of the first day on stage 1. And a short excerpt from his description is, I'll demonstrate how Rive streamlines the design development handoff, allowing for seamless collaboration and rapid iteration through its single file format and intuitive editor. You will learn how Rive's powerful state machine and intuitive editor can revolutionize your workflow and unlock the potential for truly immersive user interfaces.
Oh.
So come see his talk.
Meantime, I want to add one more thing for Drew Mill's question about how to maintain this one, because we didn't mention that. We can roll back to Fluttercon or question back, but what I would do if I were you is I would go to app and check what can I take out from front end at this point, because we are also doing a lot of stuff in front end and handling the logic and qubits and so on. I would check what can I put it to the back end, what can I automate it, how can I make the app as simple as possible? Like, what kind of data you are processing in Flutter? Are you using some changes and stuff? let's say, make the app simple and throw it to the backend so that not your team is doing that part? That may be a thing.
I'd be surprised if you don't have a lot of repeated code in there.
Yeah, something that big.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if different teams are repeating the same code, even though for different purposes. And, maybe you could take that code, add in a couple of variables instead of hard-coded values for a few things, and then just reuse those same methods on both teams. But of course, it's going to take more than changing a few methods to get the general idea. Hell, a code base that big, how could you even find if two of the methods were this?
So, I mean, you were talking about, like, there's definitely stuff in there that's repeating, right? Like you've got that many teams and that many people. They potentially built the same thing twice over because they needed it individually separately, or something similar that you can now collapse the code of and say, okay, these are similar. Let's join these two bits of code together, right? So I think, yeah, there's just lots of, without any specifics, really hard to it's really hard to understand where to recommend things, right?
The sad thing I see is a lot of meetings in your future. This is why they say 2 developers is the best. The best number of developers for any given project is 2. Any more, and you start losing time in meetings.
Yeah.
And with an app this size, trying to figure out how to streamline it, I see a lot more time spent in meetings than coding. I'm sorry to tell you that.
Right, before we get off the topic of, before we get too much off a different topic, there's a last chance here to get yourself some 50% off tickets or some free tickets even. So I will post a link into the chat. I got the right link. That would be helpful. There it is. There's a link in the chat, and if you go there,
Simon.
Yeah.
This expired a week ago.
Well, okay. You should be able to submit and get some potential off 50% off your tickets. So submit still fit. Submit.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine that part still works.
So, but yeah, so if it's still last chance to get tickets, basically.
Somebody's got to keep Simon on track.
Yeah.
Right, do we have some more questions?
This has been Danielle's job while I was away.
Yep.
Uh-oh.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So while we're on the subject.
No, it won't be, but we do recordings of every talk, and they go up within a month of the conference. So if you can't make it, there is a potential you can see it online. But to be honest, it's much nicer to come in person to these things because you get to speak to not just other developers and other people in the business, but also the speakers, and to get your questions answered. So if you've got a topic that's been spoken about, it's really nice to be able to go straight to the source and get those questions answered.
There is a way to get at least a little bit of one-on-one time with Simon. Go to a talk he gives or something he's moderating, and then when it's all finished, be the last person out of the room, and then just talk to him a little bit.
Yeah.
All you have to do is wait for everyone else to leave.
And Steph had a question related to that too. So that was, but you just answered that, so we can remove that one.
Yeah. Hey, Steph. Yeah, there's somebody else we've got to get back on the show here.
Yeah, she's been
on
frequently.
Let's get into motion here. We've been at this a little while, and we still have 6 more questions and counting. I'm trying to build mobile apps with Flutter since we have Firebase Studio. Is it possible to build full mobile apps on a low-spec laptop, i.e. a Chromebook? And there's a built-in Android emulator. Oh, yeah, it does have the built-in ability to run Android. Since it is a Chromebook, it is possible. In fact, if I remember right, Tim Sneath was rather proud of that when they were demonstrating it. But I'm not sure how complicated
So
an app you can write on it.
you have to. So first of all, you won't be using Firebase Studio to build mobile phone apps on a low spec Chromebook. It's not Firebase Studio. It's not. You still be using Fire. You have to use Android Studio locally, and you can do that. You can run Linux apps on a Chromebook. So basically, you can actually just run Android Studio with the Android emulators. Whether or not it's performant and how fast it is at doing things is another matter, and that's going to be down to the specific Chromebook. But I do know that the more expensive, like Pixelbooks and Chromebooks, you can definitely run Android Studio, definitely do app development. To be honest, at some point you go, is it even worth this? Is it's probably worth just going with Linux at that point, or Mac or whatever, right? I hear Linux Mint is quite a good option for some of the stuff as well.
Maybe in upcoming months that would be probably even easier. Not exactly right now as June 18 for sure, but there is a lot of stuff coming to Firebase Studio as well.
It was more about the fact that you need to connect your local machine to the remote hosting server. They don't have it down at the moment. And also, is it web worth it? Because you might as well just use the hosted one on the cloud, right? Like, you don't get any performance. What the real problem is, we're using Firebase Studio, which is the same problem that Google had with its headsets, its gaming headsets, is bandwidth, right? Is that you're going to have a constant stream of a video coming down to your device, and depending on the device, spec of the device and spec of the connection, that's a problem. Notoriously, this is always the way. Like it's funny that every developer it has a gaming rig or a gaming-based machine of spec because you need that power to develop these things, right? Like,
and my laptop can run VR.
Exactly. To like constantly compile and to run all these tooling and stuff above your actual app that you're developing is just you just put a lot more stress on your machine. So you need a higher performance. Also, you want it to be able to be fast developing so you can iterate quickly. So you end up with like a really high spec machine because you have to, not because you want a high spec machine. It's because that's the only thing that's going to get you to do your job. And sadly, I think that's still going to be the way. And unless we come out with machines that all they can't do anything else but like Android Studio, then yeah, I mean that's different, right? But like fine tune just to work that use case, but it would be pointless. Okay,
right. Shall we go on?
Go for it.
We are going on. How can we make animated grid views items have different sizes? The delegates only take a fixed size or a fixed ratio.
Yeah, you don't.
That's what I was thinking, but I wanted to see what you said first.
So animated grid view that's how it's built, right? It's built to do that. So you don't with animated grid, but you can make your own animated grid view that does whatever you want. So I think that's the case of what you're saying here is how do you make an animated grid view? But that's very particular to your use case, and that's what you need to explain. So
is this a job for Simon's favorite multi-child render object?
But it is, yeah. I think so here's the problem. Well, it first of all is one of the hardest things to do. First of all, just not this specifically, but if you're trying to do stuff with scrolling, right? You're now trying to like work with widgets on the screen that don't exist because they're off the screen. They're getting recycled. They don't actually exist there, right? So when you try to like resize something and you try to animate it, it's a tough call. You have to do quite a bit there to actually get to. It's possible. Don't get me wrong, definitely possible. I'm just saying it's not easy. If, however, you saw like a grid on the screen and they're different sizes and you're just trying to like move stuff around, then that's quite straightforward because they're fixed size, right?
I just put a link, which is Flutter Staggered Grid View, which has a layout. Which I don't know whether this would help you in your case, or maybe you can just like fork it and add it a little bit to your site. But there in this layout, it works in sliver context as well. It's not directly grid view, but maybe it helps.
And if you're a little bit confused, Esra is a moderator. It lets her post links. It won't let you post links.
Yeah, the moderator's all in blue. So if you see
Yeah.
the blue color, you know that's one of us.
One of us.
You-
One of us.
Thank you.
One of
I appreciate
One of us.
it.
All right. Next, actually, we're going back to Instant App. For Android
Yeah.
Instant App, there's no proper documentation or resource. I tried Add to App, but it looks like it's very tricky. We should have an easy way, as many apps which grow need such features. Okay,
Maybe not for long.
Yeah, right. Those-
Ramil, that
way.
sounds like you're making a statement. I don't see the question.
yeah.
I mean, yes, if it continues, I think we should. There you go.
Additional
You don't
based on
have
the
that
output.
problem anymore, I guess.
Yes. See our previous questions.
Yep.
I'm not sure what to tell you there, Jamil. I mean, I agree, should be easy. I don't see that you're asking a question here. Let me double check. Okay. No, it's
There is
not
documentation. There is documentation on how to do Android Instant Apps, but not one for Flutter specifically. So yes, that'd be nice to have that, but equally,
All righty.
it's one of
And
those things
Jamil
if you're doing
agrees
you
that
need
it
to
is no
understand
longer relevant.
Well, we don't know for sure right now. Let's wait till it comes out of the blog, the marketing department of Google. Put it that way.
Okay. Johan, you made it.
Yay.
What will your approach be to build one code base for iOS and Android? Needs to use Material 3 and Cupertino. This
If
is
it does.
most Flutter apps. But I would like to hear this too, because I have been doing almost everything in Android only, and should probably get into writing for both at once. And actually, there's a resource for this, isn't there? In is it in the cookbook or just in the docs?
I mean, I think there's docs all around the place. I mean, like, there's plenty of written up about this, but I think what would our approach be, right? I mean, so you've got it all really depends on how your app is built, right? For most apps I've ever seen, they don't have a Cupertino UI and a Material UI version of their app. It's not like most apps don't have. You run it on iOS and it looks like an iOS thing. You run it on Android, it looks like an Android thing. They kind of normally have a unified design system for the app.
Yeah, that's what they call brand first.
And then you'll have specific things in that design system that are iOS or Android. Like maybe the way tabs work, you have like a or back button and things like that are going to be different on each one, in which you code that into the way that you build your app. Now, if you do want to have two completely different surfaces to your app, well, then do that. You've got two different widget hierarchies that are completely separate from each other, and that you have the same backend. You have all that same logic. You have all the same stuff. It's just how you present it to the user is different each way. In which case,
I think what they're looking for, if K is.
Yeah,
I think that's what they might be looking for, is how to use if K is something.
Personally, I just worked on a date picker thing for a customer, which is definitely have a different look for iOS and Android. And what I did was I took the widget separately out of the regular code base. I put it to the design system and I just have it there. Like you can also have it in a different theming, like a Material theme and Cupertino theme, and override stuff there. But mostly my date picker is just going there. Its platform is there, or like switching that one, and it's calling to Cupertino version, or like the regular date picker. What I did was, let me even just like directly check. The date picker is just like varying in between and going for inline model expandable, and picker mode is like date time. And then it's just like switching from there based on that. But I took everything out from the app. Everything is in the design system, and I'm just like marking parameters as show seconds, show date afterwards. It's too dynamic and platform specific.
Yeah, I mean, if you're trying to detect the platform you're on, you do not want you don't normally want to use platform.is iOS or platform.is Android. People do that. The problem is, like, it means you cannot use a certain design system on a different physical device, right? What you actually want to do is look at your theme. Theme has what's called a target platform on it. You do theme target platform is target platform iOS or Android, and that way you can actually build your app on Android, but targeting the Apple UI and see the Apple UI experience on an Android device. And you can do the same thing vice versa, which is how you would literally how I first did Flutter was I only had an Android device. I didn't have an Apple device. So I was building Flutter apps for iOS effectively, but just with, by switching the UI on an Android device.
Well, a couple more things to throw in here. I just posted a link in the chat for Flutter Platform Widgets, which is kept up to date, renewed like 30 days ago. And it gives you a way of saying, I want a generic slider and do the right underneath slider for that by factoring out all the common factors. And again, that's where we run into problems against portable stuff is that, you can only have a subset of the controls as a result. So there's that I wanted to bring up, but also bring up the notion that a lot of the current widgets have dot adaptive as well. So like progress indicator dot adaptive will give you a native look circular progress indicator. So look for, and this is all fairly recent in the last probably couple of years, they've been adding dot adaptive to some of the widgets. So look for those if it has that.
Exactly for that reason that Simon mentioned, and our designers created something really iOS-like. So our Android users were using a date picker just in iOS way, to be honest. Super close to iOS look. Yeah, I think it's pretty matters to do it in their native home feeling overall, if your design system is not supporting it.
Yeah. Right. So there's generally the idea of like switching out a widget for a different style based on platform is adaptive. The name is adaptive, which is what term is used. But yeah, like the problem becomes when you start doing those is that when you want to make a particular change, it's like, oh well, I can't because now I'm just using what comes out of the box. So it all depends on what you're building and how unique it is. But yeah, if you're just throwing an app together, you want it to be adaptive on both. Perfect. Use platform widgets, make them adaptive. If you're working with like a designer and design system, they're going to have their way that they want to see it based on those platforms, and that's what you build. So really, you don't care about the Cupertino library, you don't care about the material like design library, right? Cool.
Alrighty, I just put out the 5-minute warning. So we have 6 questions. We have a 5-minute warning. We're going to stop taking questions after that. And let's see here. Should I create a generic API method in the data layer instead of repeating it across features as my boss suggested? Your boss suggested something that violates dry.
No, there can be reasons. There can be reasons to violate dry, right? Depends on what you're doing, right? But I will say that, like, in terms of, let's say you got separate modules and they've been used in separate places, like you need to have something repeated. Like, you don't just not have anything repeat, like every line. Imagine you got the same line of code a few different places in your app. You're like, oh my god, that's terrible. I'm going to make a function for that one line. That's ends up being like there's a diminishing returns at some point, right?
Okay, well, I've got a point on this. Now, I believe that it is considered okay to repeat yourself if you're only doing it one time somewhere. But if you're trying to repeat like 6 times, Simon, what about the idea of making a common in a monorepo?
Yeah, but it depends. What I'm trying to say, it depends on what you're doing. Like, I'm not going to go. I'm saying there are times when you have to repeat, right? I'm not saying that, but the idea is that the principle is you shouldn't do that, right? Not that you can't do it or won't do it. Right? It's the difference. In this case, I would say that. I mean, I don't know you say cross features. I don't know what these features are or how they work, but to be honest, if you've got a generic API method, then what is your APIs doing in features? That's probably my first thing. Like, why are they remotely related to the feature? I mean, yeah, if you're using something across multiple features, then it's a feature in itself that API is, right? Like it's separate, right? In which case, on a completely separate layer. So it wouldn't be repeated because it's on a separate layer. And without knowing more specifics, I wouldn't say one way or the other. But normally, yeah, you're right. You wouldn't put it in each feature because of a completely separate layer. Your data, effectively, that you should probably have an API module, an API service, or some API something that has your API methods in that keeps them over there, whilst the rest of the code is over here. But let's say maybe some of those APIs relate to one feature and turn it on and off. Then maybe you want to break down your API service into multiple facets and have like a what's the word?
Okay, wait. I think that this is reversed here. Your boss wants you to create a single generic API request method in a clean architecture project instead of repeating it across data sources. This makes it sound like you want to repeat it and your boss does not want you to, which is the reverse of what I understood your original question.
Yeah, I'm so confused. You would have you say generic API request method. Most API things, like you do an app, eventually come down to one method, which is request to the server. So you're always going to have that generic method. Then you should build another on top of that, which is your particular API functions that use the generic method that kind of maybe attach a token and then send it to the server, right? Yeah. If you've got different data sources, they're going to have separate APIs or separate servers. But again, those would all call the generic one that eventually calls the server. So it's about funneling it down, right? So
okay.
Sounds to me like you're correct. I mean,
you can't, just interrupting, but you can have the API client to share there to get it, receive it, retrying, for example, or authentication, that you can actually have them, but not to fetch something. That's how I felt from yours.
Here's the thing to think about, right? The actual HTTP client, you're sharing that across the multiple data sources, right? Which means you're doing the same thing, right? Like you're not repeating yourself because you're now funneling it down to one API client, your HTTP client, right? So yeah. Don't repeat yourself.
Yep.
The answer to this question is just depends.
As all software, like
don't repeat yourself more than twice. How's that?
I don't like that one either. I don't like that one.
Intentional duplicate is allowed. So you mean?
I'm going to take this next one to make for speed.
Every abstraction introduces some cost. And so the thing is, do you gain more by doing an abstraction than you lose, or is the other way around? And that's very case dependent.
Yeah, and it's also dependent on your team and so many other things as well. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Is it possible to develop and deploy a Flutter app without using Android Studio in 2025? Yes, it is. The last time I saw a survey on this was last year. It showed that 45% of Flutter developers were using either IntelliJ or Android Studio, which are basically the same, or 55% was using VS Code. So if you don't want to use Android Studio or IntelliJ, then you go with VS Code. Either way, everything's fine. So yes, actually, and you've been able to do that long before 2025. Yeah. Next question.
To be clear, what you're saying is it's possible to Flutter app without using Android Studio. Well, if I'm just building an iOS app, then I'm not going to be using Android Studio.
Exactly.
But no, honestly though. But the point here, if you're just using the Android compilation tools, the Android command line tools, you don't need Android Studio to build an Android app. Like you never have, right? It's a case of that you just need to be able to compile the Java/Kotlin Android project into a bundle or APK, right? And that's what the tooling is. It's not the Android Studio, it's just the IDE. You don't need that.
Personally, I only use that for launching and creating new emulator, and I don't use Android Studio for coding.
It's funny. I use Android Studio to launch the emulator, and then I open up IntelliJ and I code in IntelliJ.
Nice.
Which I just need to get it set up so I can launch the emulator from IntelliJ. That's just me. But for Simon's wise ass comment, I'm just going to reach right through.
Oh, why not?
Do you know what it just reminded me of, actually, just talking about that? I did see something this week, and now it came through on one of the many places. Do you guys heard of this?
Clarity SDK.
No, I have not.
So let's bring this question on. So this is an SDK by Microsoft for Flutter mobile apps. It's actually a analytics SDK, right? So Flutter's taking the world by storm, really for high performance apps. Microsoft Cloud to understand users, understand your users should be using Seamless to build your apps. Where in the hell is it? With over 500,000 apps built and rapidly growing developer community, Flutter is no longer just an emerging framework. It's really nice to hear. But as your user expectations grow, you need to understand what's working, what's not, and where users are dropping off. This is where Clarity comes in. So they're basically saying that they're watch real user sessions and see how users interact with your app screen by screen. So session replays, does heat maps, and performance efficiency as well. But yeah, so there's like a whole bunch of here, which is kind of.
I like heat maps. I do really like heat maps.
Yeah.
It helps.
This is what Dremel should use on his app to work out, are people actually using these features?
I have a problem with Lane for a moment here. Okay.
I'll pop the link to that in the chat.
He says real ones use Eclipse for Android development. No, you're wrong. We use Vim.
I was about to bring Vim. Yes.
Oh, I remember the Eclipse. I remember the Eclipse days, and I'm glad they're in the past. Oh god, Ant. Oh my god, Ant as well as build system. What was it before Ant? Oh,
that I don't
remember. Ant Gradle. I remember using like CVS, like as a concurrent version control system. Or whatever it was. God, no.
All right.
SVN before Git. Come on, people.
Yep. Yeah. So sorry, Lane. The answer is Vim.
Yeah.
Okay.
SCCS.
Hey, Steph. If you're not an artist and have very little money, so you can't hire an artist, but you need characters for a game, how do you create or get the sprites created? AI.
I kicked out if I say AI, and then you said AI. Oh my god, I missed this.
Yep.
I think you have a unanimous answer here.
To be honest, like the other thing is you talk about money to hire an artist. If you've got very little, there's still lots of artists out there that want to build a portfolio that will do it for very little, right? So there you can go to like some of these other like freelancer websites for designers, right? There's just tons out there. But that might be one way to find someone's art style that you like and find out if they'll do commission work for like $50 or something. Right?
I just see some also open source packages for that, but probably you will need to write integration a little bit, like how are you gonna use them and do that. But Open Game Art, Dart, itch.io, and so on, they just looks like commercial friendly, huge collection stuff that you can still put till you get a little more money to get it created for you. Maybe.
All right.
Oh, she said AI didn't work. Okay.
AI did not work.
How?
It's got to be in the prompt. You have to get the right prompt for stuff.
Join us in FCAIC and we can try to do it.
I have a hard time believing that the AI offerings from Google that were shown in, at least definitely the ones that were shown in I/O. I have a hard time believing they wouldn't be able to do this, but how to get them to do it might be a more complicated question.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've been making entire videos with it now.
It's like a
Yep.
Disney made video, 1 minute, 2 minute, totally consistent, same character in different angles. Yeah, it will be like just a matter of setup.
Yep.
All right. Hey, what's Christian saying here? If you ask AI for a 128 by 128 image, it'll create everything, but never 128 by 128.
Yeah,
Right.
because it can't.
That's true.
So they'd set their fixed sizes, right? So it's the way that the sampling works. That's why you get always a square image out, for example. And if you ask for like a widescreen, it's a square image that's cropped, right? Like, but it's not cropped by the AI. It's cropped after the fact. Like a different step.
Yeah, you could ask it for an aspect ratio of 1 and then Photoshop it to shrink it down.
That's what I'm saying. You're gonna have to resize it, right?
Yeah. If I recall right, I'm part of it. So AI was the first thing I tried. I got a final image, but need movement. Oh, yeah.
So you can feed an input into it. So you can feed the generator one into it and ask it to change it. That'd be the way I do that. You couldn't ask it to generate the same image but different, because it will just produce a completely different image, right? So, but it depends on the model that you're using, and the particular the model you have to be using is based for images to do this kind of stuff.
I wonder if you could get it to do a short video on the video AI and then change the format.
Yeah. Anyway.
I mean, there is a reason why I mentioned FCAIC. Thank you for your work stuff for FCAIC, but it was more to give it a try in live streams. There are some Leonardo AI and stuff to create motion frames and so on. We could try live. Yeah, that was exactly the plan. Totally good. We can have a look if you want.
Okay. And then there were 2.
And also suggest people put in their suggestions for some live coding if they want to.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up.
Okay. What do you think about Liquid Glass Works showing up in X communities doing lots of stuff? Hey, I wonder who asked that.
We went through this earlier.
I mean, I put the links and the stuff there, but I'm really wondering whether there will be like a single package, would it be like supported, and so on. It's more like community and how it's getting created. To be honest, I wasn't expecting that many contributors creating that many libraries. I'm actually super shocked by that. Super great.
I tell you, I'm not that shocked by it. I tell you why, because one of the things that brings a lot of developers to Flutter is that kind of look and feel, is that kind of like being able to customize and do all this UI stuff, right? So I think a lot of people were intrigued once they knew like something comes out that's fancy. They go, "Oh, let me try that. How do I do that?" But yeah, I mean,
to bring those kind of graphics into Android.
You have those graphics in Android. You can do all that stuff. The question is, why would you bother? And I'll be honest with you, as much as it looks nice, I would not want a phone that does that. Frankly, do you want your battery to last half as long?
Personally, I have it like enabled on my phone because it's just like clearer, but I wouldn't use it yet. It's not accessible, nothing close to I can use overall at all. I'm mostly developing app for blue collar workers there. Like I am making them larger than normal, larger than like so on, or huge contrast. Liquid glass will not work for at least my audience and customers. Yeah, not there.
All right. Okay, well, let's take care of this last question first.
Okay.
We're getting reports that our app occasionally loses internet connection, even though users can still browse the web and use other apps without any issues. This is happening both on iOS and Android. Roberto, without more context.
So let me be clear. Like, how are you determining loss of interconnection? Like literally, like, because when a user switches network from like mobile to Wi-Fi, you may be presenting lots of internet connection popping up, right? Like, because if you just do a one-to-one, you probably would, right? At some point it disconnects and then reconnects, right? But you don't need to react that quickly. Like you need to put a delay in any sort of display to the user of a reasonable amount of time. Say, oh, you're not connected, like 10 seconds or something, right? Like they're using your app and like it's not working in 10 seconds. Oh, sorry, you're not connected, right? That's fine. But yeah, your app isn't losing internet connection, right? It's just reporting it to the user, right? Because the user doesn't know it's losing internet connection. No user ever does because it's just constantly loading it retries. So
the infinity.
What they're seeing, what they're seeing is you're displaying a warning saying they've lost internet connection. That's what they're complaining about. The question is, why are you showing?
Okay, but that if it's saying that it's not getting internet connection in a snack bar, that's coming from the OS.
No.
No?
No, your app has to show the snack bar in your code. It doesn't magically show a snack bar on things. Right? The fact of the matter is you've had to like use like Connectivity Plus or one of the other packages to listen to the operating system's connection state and then present that to the user. And there's tons of reasons why your connection may change, right, instantaneously, right? Like connecting to a VPN, and then something. It's like, okay, my connection state's gone from being Ethernet to VPN, or to Wi-Fi, or to whatever, right? And then it might be in the logic in which you detect, is it a valid connection? I mean, a lot of the time, what you want to do is pings, right? So you have like as part of your API surface, you have like a ping endpoint, and you connect when you say that you're connected, and then when you say that you're connected with Connectivity Plus, we'll look at that in a second.
What happened? That was an update.
Yeah, I know. So you're like, you listen to Connectivity Plus package, and once you get the connection saying, okay, I'm connected, then you want to ping your server a few times. And once you have 3 successful pings, you haven't got timeout, you go, okay, I'm online. Now you can report to the user you're back online, right? And then whilst that your app is in that offline state, you don't actually make requests to your server until you're in a known online state. And this stops you from connecting things like what's called a captive portal. So it's when someone connects to like a free open Wi-Fi, and then they cannot use the internet until they fill out the form or put the email address in or something like that, or log in or pay for it or whatever. So you need to make sure that you're aware of that, just because you're connected to a network doesn't mean you have an internet connection, right? So, and you need to make sure that's reported to the user as such. Also, it could be that your connections, that connection your app is making are being blocked by a network, right? Your app can be offline, it can consider itself offline, whilst websites are browsable by the user because it allows YouTube and Google, but doesn't allow, whatever app server ever it's hosted, right? Just thought I'd say that as well, right? Like it's not as simple as my app broken, right? Anyway, go on. What was that last bit that you said? I'm subscribed to Firebase updates, but no data is received. That means nothing to me. What do you mean by that? What's Firebase updates? What data?
Probably Firestore snapshots.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
But that's correct because it's not connected, obviously, right?
Yeah, I can't get anything.
Why is it not connected is another matter, right? Like,
you shouldn't need to reset your snapshots if you go from one network to another, would you?
No, it's all handled for you natively.
Yeah.
All I'd say here, Roberto, is make sure you got the most recent versions and of everything, right? Make sure you're up to date. You got the most recent bug. It could be a bug, right? It could be. However, I doubt it. They're pretty fundamental, these packages, right? All tested.
All right. Last point here. I'm not sure why, Randall, why was this starred?
I started.
You started.
Oh.
Yeah. So Turtle Boost brought up an issue about Flutter Glass, and someone just saying this, which was maybe an interesting topic, which was can't capture output of a backdrop filter without painting it to the screen. This is like again like it's again like the sampling of liquid glass, and this kind of comes around to the fact that to do an effect of something that's underneath, you need to see what's underneath to choose what color pixel. So, for example, if Randall was overlaid on top of me on the screen right now, there's blue on either side, right? If I want to do it 50-50%, I need to choose 50% of that blue and 50% of, let's say, this white here, and that would be my final color that shows on the screen. So my shader needs to know what the background is when it does this, whatever's on top, right? And that's really what the problem is. Now, the problem here is that backdrop filter is applied in the shaders themselves. So there is no sampling to get that pixel data from. So currently, as far as I'm aware, currently at the moment, Flutter doesn't let you sample from the shader stack. It can only sample from an image. And that's the limitation. So you're going to have this problem. You have to capture it to sample. I may, yeah. I mean, there was it image filter? I'm trying to remember the name of it. But there's a way of doing this. Supposedly a way of doing this being worked on. Oh, it was a while ago. Image filter layer.
We don't see your screen if you're hanging.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I was just like looking through. So you have image filtered, backdrop for other stuff, and this is what is talking about. And all of these effects, right, are actually put on the UI stack, right? And this week, but custom shader like your glass, right? Yeah, there's I can't remember what it was now. Color filter. I feel like there's or maybe it's because the image filter shader is not sampling and other shaders underneath. This could just be an issue with Impeller. It's being tracked. Oh, Turth tracked it as a new proposal for a team. Nice. Yeah. Anyway,
My AirPods just died. I'm going backstage just a second to change it.
Let us know. Whoops. Yeah, she couldn't hear me anyway.
Right. Actually came back with Firestore snapshots.
Yep, exactly. That was a good guess then. But
it may be getting blocked. It could also be running out of memory. There's a bunch of things like monitor the app. Use the Dart dev tools and see what's going on whilst your app is being used. What I say to that?
I mean, if they are having issues about connection overall, I would put the log to enable network, disable network part to also to see whether it's really enabled or disabled. I had to force at some point to get the cache and kind of make time for speeding because it wasn't getting disabled network immediately and it was causing 10-15 seconds delay because it was waiting for timeout. I don't know whether he's checking that part. So I actually speed up and I bypassed the timeout waiting for connectivity plus package causing there and Firebase is waiting.
Right. What we doing? Should we do some live coding? What are we live coding? Anyone
got anything live coding? I don't think we got anything.
Anyone got any suggestions? Pop them in the chat.
Maybe the staggered grid view, whatever thing. That was interesting for a second.
Oh, Jim, we did answer your question, so go back and watch it. Not sure where it is. There are ways to do it. I'm kind of curious, Jim, if you're here now, please tell us what exactly you were trying to animate. Like, was it scrolling list?
Yeah.
Yeah, you said about like the.
Oh yes.
Is it because all of the grid cells have to be the same size?
Yeah.
Did you want different size grid cells? Is that what was going on?
That's what it was, and we said that you can't do that in a regular grid view. That you would have to use multi-child render object, and it's extremely complicated to do that. In particular, because of the scrolling. Simon, do you remember now?
Yeah. I mean, let's just see what. I'm kind of curious what Jim says, but
yeah, we went over your question quite carefully, Jim. Okay, here we go. Grid of orders. Each order might have different notes. Aha. It's different heights. And it is scrollable. He says
So,
it is scrollable.
It's interesting, right?
Christian, you're great. He said the timestamp for the original answer is 51:26.
There you go.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you do that as we go. That's awesome.
When we switch back and forth, he's got to have a hard time. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So different heights. I mean, as we mentioned, there's a staggered list view package, right? But it doesn't do animations. And if you're trying to like animate and swap places of items on the screen, I think it's like specifically down to what you're actually trying to do. Try to implement it, but the hard part was the animations. Yeah, correct. You might want to look at something like
Flutter animate.
Local heroes and things like that, where they can actually you do the drag and then drop, and then it does like the switch. But yeah, congratulations, you found some of the hard parts.
Do a if you want to look into local heroes, I would do a Google search. I remember some people did talks on them 1 or 2 years ago. I think it was 1. But yeah, local heroes was a pretty cool thing when it came out. Still is.
I mean, we could give this a go in coding it, some stuff around this if you want.
I'm hearing the Bonnie Tyler song in my head. I need a hero.
I think I'm like, look at this guy like
for that.
This is not a small job. This is something that's going to, take some time. Now is probably not the right time to do that. We could certainly give some maybe a little sample or something going towards in that direction right now in the limited time that we got. I think it'd be really nice to understand, like, what your expectation is. So let's.
Oh, there's the expectations. My main use case is inserting and removing.
Make it just to what you have, and we can work on that.
Yeah, or an image or a rough sketch, or something. Because, like, saying I've got a
napkin, Jim.
Is it
grab a napkin?
Yep.
There you go. A napkin and a pen. Yes. The ultimate planning tools.
But you need to be sitting in a Starbucks for that to really be effective.
Or McDonald's.
Yes.
Somehow I just would try a way with the library I just shared, an animated switcher, and try to just like build a little bit custom stuff. But somehow I feel like those two would eventually end up with a result. But yeah, probably I'm overseeing something.
Well, let's give it a go, right? Let's see.
Yeah. Next week. Wait, will we have a show next week? Are we going to do it live?
No, actually, we're not going to have a show next week.
We can maybe have to do it live.
Well, you'd have to do it during my talk.
Do it live.
USA live.
You won't be here, but we might.
we could be outside his door.
It all depends on the
And-
time slot. It may be later in the day, maybe early in the day. What's the
I
slot?
remember we did one in Kenya. We joined there
Yeah.
from Kenya, from Flutter Forward.
I
We
still-
did, we did one
Yeah.
from Flutter Vikings too.
Yeah,
Why not?
we're slightly flexible. So watch the skies because it could
Yeah,
be.
and actually, I think
time.
my talk may be getting moved, but that's a
Well,
whole nother story.
Follow us
Yeah.
on Twitter and subscribe to this channel, and then you'll get notifications. That's the way you do it.
Exactly,
Right.
because we're like 15 minutes later, we have a stream, so you need to turn on notification mandatorily. But
We have
we can go live.
Talked among ourselves about that. We really, really, really need to be advertising these streams 2 and 3 days ahead of time so that everybody knows what's coming.
We've wished that for years.
Imagine I'm also joining from Google I/O Connect with my laptop, and we're like, what's going on in Flutter World?
Good luck with that.
Yeah, we've
Oh, no.
We really
no.
we've been telling ourselves we need to do that for a long time.
Yep. So you can see how effective we are at actually acting on that.
Although, you know, at least we can tell people what the live coding is going to be now, thanks to Jim.
But yes, 2 weeks from now, or maybe next week. It's hard to tell still. we know the what, we just don't know the when. That's the point. Anyway, so we don't really have anything else for live coding that I've seen.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah.
do that. Give me a second. I'm just trying to.
And while Stemon's doing that, you might notice my Crater Lake behind me is a slightly different look. I said, I'm going to use image to image in Gemini and take my original picture, which I shot, and run it through an watercolor and ink filter. So that's where it's good from now. A little more subdued. It's not quite as standing out as a background. So that's a little bit nicer for all y'all to have to deal with. Yeah. I can get my talk written by midday Tuesday.
Okay, we're all sitting here quietly.
Yeah, which means you should be talking about
People are not
things.
talking, and people are not
Oh.
talking in the chat either.
No, so they're not asking questions. Well, we told them not to ask any more questions, which is why
True.
they're not.
But they could make, you know,
Kinda.
make
Kinda
their
there, right?
They're compliant. Steph doesn't care. Steph just went ahead and asked. A
well,
question anyway.
but I mean, Steph's question is relevant. It's a suggestion for live coding.
Right.
We need
It-
this. I also need this personally. We need this.
Yes.
Right. Wait.
Let's see. The great thing about a live stream on YouTube is you can start anytime and watch it at double speed until you're caught up.
Yeah. Or at
Yeah.
least until you see your question.
Yeah, right. That helps.
Of course, though, for that, all you have to do is look at Christian's timestamps.
I mean,
Indeed.
Lane, we see everything that comes into the chat, so you don't have to prefix anything. You can just say something, right?
Yep.
Lane, right now, I guess we can still use the queue for that. We all know that the queue is suggestions. Lane is saying, should we use a different prefix like LC?
No, but I think the point here is that you can just say, shall we code this? It's like, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
we can understand that, right? You don't really need to prefix it. Whereas
Also,
questions,
a lot of
in the
a
chat,
lot of
the reason
live-
why we do it, hang on, the reason why we do it with the questions, the prefix in the question in the chat, is because you can be asking questions of each other in the chat, not of the audience, which is different, right?
Yeah. And we
That
don't
and
know
the
which
queue also.
questions are for us and which questions are for each other.
Yeah,
So,
and I was
do it
just going to
for
say a lot of our live coding has come out of somebody asking a question and then it being a clever thing to do live coding for. So there's no reason to have a separate category for live coding for prefixes because
Yeah.
it'll probably come
Like
out of a
Jim's
question.
problem.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, it's a little too complex to try and go into right now.
Is it? Okay. I'm going to
This
try
is
a little bit of it.
debatable. You haven't spent much time talking to Simon off the stream.
I'm dumb as 5 planks, mate. I don't know. I know nothing. I think this is more about just like practice, right? Like people talk about this. It's like I've been doing mobile apps since 2007, right? And actually Java ones before that for like a year or whatever it was, and then other development before that. I mean, most of us on the screen, like Randall, how long have you been coding for? Do you want to know?
I wrote my first code. I wrote my first code for hire in 1977.
There you go. Right.
Oh my God. I feel. I'm like.
So I'm the old man here. My age is all in ones in binary right now. I don't get to say that too often.
All in ones.
Yeah, mine. I've been doing this for 25 years, right? So it
I'm just listening at 27 years old. So and you're coding 25 years. Okay. I see all of the audience. I will take the bullet for you. Oh my
God, this is
Fred.
This is brilliant. I love this.
Yes. I grew up at
Really
negative
bad.
Unix time. Yes, I was born in
Negative Unix time. Love it.
Oh
Love it.
my
Right.
Yep.
Shall we
Really good.
do some stuff? Let's
What is the white box?
The white box is not an app. Yeah.
White
box is what we're going to be building, hopefully. I did it as a desktop. Oh, we could do it as a. Yeah.
It's a memory of Roman.
In memory of our dear Roman, who couldn't join us on the stream. So yeah, I mean, staggered grid view. I mean, we could add this to sort of maybe lay something out. I'm not certain that's probably needed.
You know, there are times when I'm glad
one part.
YouTube doesn't save the chat.
Mm-hmm.
At least I don't think
YouTube
it does.
saves the chat. YouTube saves the chat.
No, don't do that. Lane and I are having a discussion that I don't want saved.
Too bad.
Don't share it.
You're part of the permanent record now.
The internet is forever. Oh, jeez. Speaking of,
yes,
phone call coming in here.
Oh no.
So I'm just trying to dig something out. I think I did something similar before.
We've only got 15 minutes till the top of the hour, just to let you know.
That's your hard stop, is it?
Yeah. Because I got meetings for the next 2 hours after this.
Where is this?
Do you think we all sound muffled or just one person?
We sound like
it could be so it could be that your audio the quality level is set to the wrong quality level on the stream. Check your quality level on YouTube because your audio will drop down in quality depending on your quality of the stream. And whilst you're trying to figure that out, I'm going to find out. Oh, it's a multi-chart render object I did before. We could do something like this. This might be fun. I think the key here is like to understand like what we're actually trying to achieve.
Whatever's in the mind of Jim.
Where's Jim? Jim.
Yeah.
Come back to us, Jim.
We're not telepathic apparently. How should we do this?
Is this the kind of thing? Away from the light.
Is this the kind of thing, Jim? Like this, like kind of staggered vertical list scrolly thing? Is it 4 columns? Is it 1 column? Is it red? Is it blue? Come on, give us something, Jim.
Yep, he's probably typing as fast as he can right now, trying to get.
It's when you hear a reply that's just yes. No, it's just a reply that just says yes, and you're like, that's not helpful, Jim. It's unsplash, isn't it? Splash. Let's get some. Search for.
Now, I can't really see what masonry is, Simon. Is that a...
No, this is like a layout style, right? This is
Yeah.
On Staggered grid view. So on tablets, it's 3-column. On mobile, it's 1. Okay, but we're then thinking about tablets, right? So let's do a desktop, and then we can stretch it out. And I'm trying to find some.
Another interesting point while Simon is looking, for those of you who work in Flutter Web, if you haven't figured it out, it's a lot faster to write Flutter Web but run it in Windows, because then you can just refresh in
desktop
Windows or Mac. Okay, run it in desktop. Yes, I keep forgetting that other operating system exists because they just want to charge me money.
And Linux too. You could run a Linux desktop.
Right.
So all the desktop.
Is there a way? There must be this. Can someone like get me like a list of? Oh wait, I may have a list of photos in here. I disregard me. Hang on. I'm pretty sure I used a photos something or other in. There it is. Photos. There we go. That's what I want. That'll do. Image thumb URLs. We'll use that. So this is. I don't know if they're still valid, but we'll find out. So first of all, we will have a material. This is yeah, we'll do this, and then on the off the back of this, we'll have a. Who's typing is really loud? Someone's typing is really loud.
Me.
I
That's you,
unmuted
Scott.
myself forever for that.
I
Must be
think that's
Scott.
Scott,
Scott's gonna
were
be
you
like-
typing
Yes.
just then?
What's that?
Your typing was coming through really loud.
Oh, wow. Sorry about that.
I'm pretty sure it's yours. So, yeah. Right.
Yeah, I was
okay. So let's start off with what Jim is starting off with, which is
Yep. And Jim's got some more details here too.
grid view.
He's got 2 more messages.
I'll look in a second.
Okay.
Right. Well, Jim, you're saying it's currently set up with a fixed height because, of course, that's the only thing you can do with a grid view. But you're trying to get it to where you can have multiple height sizes.
Sounds like a normal list view to me then.
Oh,
Animated list view maybe.
that's how I did that. I did one that had a bunch of columns together in a row, and I called it the slot machine because all of the columns had single child scroll views, the row had single child scroll views, and each one had a column in it. So the columns scrolled independently.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would help you, Jim, but that's a pretty easy fix. But like I said, all the
think that
columns
would
scroll
help.
independently.
Once you just make them flexible, that should also definitely work. Then you can make animated size and then also put the animation.
Or you could just make a row of list views. But again, if you want the whole thing to scroll together, that's a different story. Yeah, I agree, Jim. He needs the whole thing to scroll.
Yeah. Well, first things first. Let's get
red. I see red.
Sorry.
What? What? Ooh.
This is probably hacky as hell, but take a single child scroll view, put a row inside of it, and then 3 columns inside of that.
No.
So a row would have 3 columns, and then put the row in a single child scroll view, and the whole thing scrolls together.
What are you
But then the
solving about
question
a
is,
row in there? You mean have each item be a row in a list view?
what's that?
You mean have each item be a row in a list view?
No, a single row in a single child scroll view, and then 3 columns inside of the row.
So, but Scott, the thing is, he doesn't want the grid. He wants the whole grid view to scroll, not like slot machine. It's more like right now what Simon is doing with the different highs and then just getting animated.
No,
So-
but but what I'm telling you is that the one I'm talking about would scroll all together. But then the question is, how would you target each individual column to put things in?
By ordering, you can also get the center of the image and then go for literally where it is rendered. You can place it because when they are making drag and drop and fit there.
We
It's
did
also-
this.
That sounds familiar.
We
that
did.
was a Dart day.
No. I have something actually.
If only we had a great way to index all of those existing archives. Some AI technology, maybe.
Yeah. Jim,
If
did
only.
you ask Gemini to do it? I've been working with 2.5 Flash, the baby one, and I'm still impressed.
Yeah, me too. It's pretty incredible. And the
There was-
2.5 Pro is almost psychic at some points. Spooky.
We did.
One's correct. It's correct.
We did this before. We did a layout which was multiple rectangles using the maximum size of the one in the row and using that to size it. Do you remember that? It must have been a custom render object, right? Partial height scale. No. We did this. Literally did this before.
Jim tried some AI, but it wasn't quite ready for prime time on something this complicated.
The first thing is getting your layout the way you want it. I'm actually just wondering if two-dimensional grid view might do this, like with a custom layout. We should maybe investigate that in a second, but that's not what I was looking for. Render grid viewport. It's the same thing. Scale text. Come on, where was it? Page overflow. Post list.
Meantime, I need to drop off in 6 minutes, but I will be watching this behind to see what will happen, and you will find me in comments probably. See how it'll be.
I think I might be right behind Ezra.
Well, then we're all going to end the show then because there'll be no one left.
Oh, wait, you're leaving in 6 minutes?
I got to leave.
Well, Randall's got to leave as well. So.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you've continued the live coding without us.
No.
Okay. Let's see whether I can make it. Maybe I can postpone 30 more minutes.
I'm just hoping that someone's going to tell me, yes, it's called this thing. I'm looking for my gist. I can't find my gist either. And I'm just like, I know it was here somewhere. We did
I'm using an AI agent to scan through all your gists right now. Let's see if to find something. Preserve position scroll. Was that it?
No, I mean, look, we can.
Yeah.
I mean, I could just code it again. It's not a big issue, and I can base it off of something that we've already got here, which is. I'm just like, it just bugs me that I know there was some code for it, and I don't remember what the hell it was called. We did like a scrolling list, and it was multiple height boxes.
Was
I was
that the
pretty sure
footer that had the multiple heights? That one was cool. That was a horizontal scrolling.
Yeah, I know. I've got that. It wasn't
Okay.
that particular one, but
Okay.
life me, I can't remember what it was. Oh, this is a problem to have too much code. Anyway, right,
Yeah.
let's just carry on. Yes, that was it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was a wrap with different size items, right? I just can't. It's got
But
to be in
he's
here
saying it was
somewhere.
without the animated part.
Yeah, I know. But we need to get to that point so that we can animate it, right? So, I don't. I mean, I'm pretty sure it was a custom. Oh, was this it? Tile max
Look
cross
who's here.
axis wrap. Hello, hello. I think we found it. We found it. Should we run it and see what happens?
How you doing, Steph?
Doing okay.
We have audio. Good.
Yay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I hear somebody. It's probably you. It could be your avatar.
I'm waving at you, Randall.
I'm waving at you.
I'm just going to throttle him.
Yeah. I'll be throttling myself in a minute or two. Don't worry.
Yeah, it's not. This isn't what I thought it was at the time. Let's see what this is, though. I don't think it's what we want, though. We'll see. Well, that's not. Wait, that's not this. It's a nice demo, but I have no idea what it is. 1.1. Is that what I mean? It is. Hey, a minute. Material app, dark, home, max cross access. Oh, maybe it is this, and it's on. It's one row. I'm very confused. Let's do this. Can we just get rid of that question? Yes. Okay. This was it. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
All right.
Oh,
So
yeah,
this
crap.
idea. Right.
It's like a Trello board.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
I
Yeah.
mean, this works, but it's not what I want. So let's go back to where we were. The
Now,
grid here.
What would be the problem with throwing that in a single child scroll view?
We'll get there in a second. How? There's the.
Meantime, I am back to roll however long we want to go for. Great. And welcome, Steph.
I
Hi.
gotta go. So
Okay, see you, Randall.
I'll see you,
See you, Randall.
Monday for our Monday taping for AI.
Yes, for sure.
And then I'll see.
We have
some
a
of
meeting
you
on Friday, don't we?
Tuesday.
Hope so.
Probably.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Ooh.
Out of here. Bye, guys. Thank you.
We have a
Bye.
yep. Oh well.
Oh my! I
So-
went for a couple minutes, and how did we end up in this amazing grid view rainbow?
So this is me just writing some of the previous code that we've done, right? So this is example of a two-dimensional scroll plane using the coordinates of the scroll plane to generate, children, right? So this is a custom two-dimensional child builder delegate, right? So no, I'm just thinking about like this kind of thing could be like, you don't have to have scrolling in a certain dimension. That's up to you to make. But then having this like builder might make the most sense. Let me just have a quick look. That's not our code. Two-dimensional grid view. That'd be our code. So this has got the viewport, and we build a custom grid viewport. And that viewport has this little algorithm which actually does the layout of the various children, obtaining a child for that particular coordinate. Right, someone else is really typing loud.
Oh,
Is that you,
sorry.
Scott?
Yeah.
I just muted. Oh, you're good. I feel like the code would do it somehow. The code makes me feel like it is doing too good. I don't know whether you got
No,
what I mean. It's like,
well, yeah, no,
me
I'm totally
too.
with you. I'm just trying to work out here is so look, we could do this as without any sort of recycling, right? Without sort of the builder pattern, and it's like ends up being a simple proposition, right? Because you're just laying things out like what we just did with the various heights. Because one's a list and one's a grid. That's literally the reason. Because lists can be multiple heights because they just append to each other in one dimension. Or a grid, that actually has to have a very complex layout algorithm to really do that, right? So it depends. Like you're talking about different, like are your heights, Jim, like 3 options in height? Are they varying heights to the pixel? What is your kind of deal here?
Since he is mentioning about node sign orders, I do really think they are just dynamic. I don't think it's a ratio, but
Right.
let's
And
see.
the problem here is, right, so you're trying to lay stuff out in a grid, right? So you've got 3 items next to each other, different height items. Height. Do you lay it going down vertically, across like a newspaper? Or do you lay it across like this and then fit the next row in underneath that row?
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? Like there's a lot of ways that you can choose to lay them out.
I feel like the text wrapper logic, like it just needs to wrap there.
Tim,
Yeah.
I really like to see, Jim, but can it's really hard to understand what you're trying to achieve with that image, right? Like
So what you showed
that
is
wrap
like
thing,
that I
like that wrap thing seems to do already what you wanted to do, right? Which is multiple heights, and they're in a grid. Like, what is it that you're actually trying to the end result of what you're trying to see? I mean, like, what's that site that you can favorite concepts and images?
All right. I'm going to step away for a minute and refill a drink.
Cool.
All right.
What? Oh, come on. Oh, Simon.
Try to describe more. Maybe
Are
we
you talking about Pinterest?
Pinterest, that's the one. Yeah, thanks. They have like a staggered grid.
Oh my gosh. Everybody write that down. Steph helped Simon.
Okay. And you help the Simon when Simon is not talking about what he is looking for, which is better.
So can you use Pinterest with like trending now picnic food ideas? Sure.
I mean, if it was me, I would.
So
just
I mean, like, look.
You go first.
So you see here, right? You've got different height items, right? And then they just like stagger up against each other, right? Is this, Jim, what you're trying to?
You're making me hungry.
Is this what you're trying to achieve, Jim?
Oh my god.
Like, need to understand. Right, does it make you hungry? Food.
Food time. Actually, even in a simple way, without even using libraries or something, what I would do is like if I had 1, 2, 3, 4 columns right now, I would just place it and I would get the size of the object that I put there. And based on that, after I put 4 items, I placed 5th and 6th, 7th, whatever. I would just check the highest and decide, okay, this would go to the first column. This would go to the 3rd column. And I can even make it wrap better. But let's see.
Search Google. Okay. It says search Google, and it's the first one. If you do this, all right. Well, it may be the first one in your country or where you are. It doesn't mean it's the first one for me, but we'll see what comes
Isn't
up.
what you're showing and the Pinterest like what you had earlier, where I called it like Trello?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is it's very much like a Trello board.
Yeah.
Yeah, but as I said, but this is what I'm trying to say. Like, is this what he's trying to achieve? And like, he hadn't said yes. Something close to that. Well, that's
grid tablet.
I'm searching and I'm not seeing.
You see, and that's what I was thinking about. If this was a row with 4 columns in it, and the row was in a single child scroll view.
Because I'm certainly not getting like, Jim, what you would think. But we just said, like, go to gist.new and post your link in there or whatever. To
Exactly.
Like, but let's just do dynamically height list grid of items, right? And imagine list tiles with dynamic height. Well, that's what we have here in front of us. But how do you want it to lay out? Though that's the point. Because you can have these all lined up in a row and have a gap underneath. You can have them centered. There's lots of ways of laying it out. The question is,
can you bring back up the code you ran earlier that looked like Trello?
I guess if it's one of these somewhere, I think this one.
Well, because then it doesn't have the it's just the boxes. Please. So can you do that where there isn't the black gaps?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's the one on the left. That's what I'm just trying to ask. What they look for? What were they asking for? Like, I can do it all. And the question is, what do they want? Right? Make up the whole screen width with the ordering of the left to right, up to bottom. I mean, down to bottom. You mean? Yes, without the black gaps. So it's what I said on the screen here. This is what Pinterest is. You could just say yes. Like, what is?
Let's say yes. Let's go.
Simon,
He said yes.
Right, and then I think that the key here though is the rearranging, right? So imagine like we're doing drag and drop on here, right? You need to be able to drag this one here, move it to the left, and because they're different heights, everything else rearranges because of that. Right?
Did Jim actually say that?
Yes, he wanted an animated. That's what I'm saying.
But I think there was no drag and drop. It was just animated.
Okay, so what does it mean? Okay, is it drag and drop, Jim? Can you reorder them? Like, what do you mean? Like,
I'm scrolling now.
no drag and drop. So then, what is the animation that you want to occur?
So
like
here,
a new order is inserted, he said, and removed.
So right now, what they have is, let's imagine these are like note 1, note 2, order 1, order 2. People can do complete cancel, and when I, for example, if I click, let's say, if I cancel pizza there, it's gonna pop and remove from the grid with animation.
Yeah.
So he's not dragging around, but popping objects and.
Okay, so question. Is just the one below it going up? If this one goes away, does this one come up? Or does the whole thing rearrange with different columns shifting over?
I would assume there is no column shifting, just something just pops up there. But let's see. Jim wrote like exactly 100% there. Let's see.
So apparently, someone just said in the chat, Verdi just said in the chat, a masonry or waterfall layout. Which is interesting, right? Because you've got apparently in Swift UI, there's actually got like a layout for this or something along those lines. It's called a waterfall grid.
Wait a minute. Jim, are you talking about something like 3 list views and then you dismiss something from one of the list views and the rest of them come up? By the item next to it.
It will follow the natural order of the grid. Let's say you're
left to right, top to bottom.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So now you're talking about animating something from left to right.
And I
Well,
want
it's from any rectangle to any rectangle.
yeah.
This is starting to look close to a game board, like a match 3. But with left to right motion in addition to top to bottom.
It's exactly like a Trello board.
No, the
Yeah.
Trello
Except
board,
Trello goes in columns. It doesn't go across. That's true.
yeah, but Jim's asking
Yep.
for both.
Right. Which is like what Pinterest is doing.
Is Pinterest shifting both?
Is Pinterest what?
Is Pinterest shifting left to right as well? I didn't realize it was. I don't spend any time on Pinterest.
I haven't been on there in a while. Let me go look. Hold on.
Well, I'm on it here, that so it just relays out the page, like it doesn't dynamically do anything.
Can you just mark when is spam and maybe we'll just see it as it's popped out? Yeah, that would be it.
So first of all, let's think about the problems here, right? So one is we've got to lay out items. To lay out items on the screen, that's not really a problem. This kind of like happened before. What was I doing? Let's have a look at. Should we have a look at the? I'm trying to remember. Like, there's a couple of different ways of doing this, but you've kind of got this intermediate state problem where you know where the old layout is, you know where the new layout is, and you want to intermediately switch between these two states, but keep the same widget moving to its new location, right? So there, and that can be done with like a linear animation, and you kind of want each of the widgets to move independently. So each widget is tracking its old location and its new location. I'm actually just thinking there might be some nice ways of doing this, some simple ways. You're definitely not going to get the recycling right now. That's not going to happen. But maybe we can kind of do this thing where you've got some scrolling content and it has this effect, this animation effect. Yeah, see this phrase, you're touching on exactly what I was thinking, right? So there's a little trick you can do. So first of all, the problem we've kind of got here is let's do this with this. So let's run this.
I'm a little confused about something, Jim. I thought you mentioned earlier that there were different categories for these tiles, like canceled or something like that, and different orders. So I'm wondering why the shift left to right, because wouldn't that mix up different types of orders when you're reading top to bottom?
Oh, clearly columns are not specifying a category, but it's just mixed.
I mean, or we're reading orders, left to right, this way, then this way, then this way.
That's nuts. Anyway, we'll get in a second.
Well, I mean, it's important to understand that.
Left to right, top to bottom layout, waterfall style. Okay, that's what we're doing. Right. The carry thing's not really worried about that for the moment. And also, I don't think it was. It was like just options that when you like cancel one and it gets cancelled, it collapses the gap, right? Okay, so we've got a grid here. We know grid doesn't work because it's got fixed constraints around the grid. It's meant to be a grid. What we want is a staggered grid. I think the best thing that we can do is plot the layout of the widgets ourselves. Then the question comes in, how do we actually lay that out? Now, one of the nice things that is actually built into the framework is this notion of an animated position, which is what Frey was, it's what I was thinking of as well, which is this, you basically give it your new, it's used inside a stack, you give it your new parameters, and it maintains its implicitly animated, maintains its position, and will just animate those parameters. It's nice, and this is basically the same way I would do this piece, but this is just reevaluating itself. We could dynamically create. I'm thinking about like maybe we can reuse the code for stack and positioned to actually do this. but not actually use those widgets.
Now, if I'm
So-
understanding correctly, though, when we dismiss one of the widgets, all of the others below it are going to shift.
Sure.
Okay.
That's not a problem. Right. So each widget. So imagine this grid here. I mean, we can do it right now. Let's do this. Let's do this with a stack right now, and just see if it works with 9 or something like that. Right. So let's take this out here, and we'll just say we've got stack, and we're going to have a for loop of X. And actually, let's wrap. Let's Y. And then we'll have an animated position inside that, and we'll have a width, a height, a left, and top. Let's put this at 0 for the minute. And the child off of that, this is not going to work with this. Yeah. And then the child in that is going to be our image network. And then we'll have a, let's just put that in the bit just to make my life easier. So we want widget images y times 3 plus x. Image. Right, what are we missing from this? It wants the duration, right? We'll do a really long duration, maybe at the moment, just for see it working, right? So theory goes, now we just need to calculate these here. So let's wrap this in a layout builder. And what we can do is say, let's make them squares for a minute, right? So we'll say like final width. So remember that the staggering we're trying to talk about is actually just a it's just how we're choosing to lay them out, right? So we can just choose how to lay them out however we want. So the staggering bit is not the hard bit. The hard bit is the animation. Go on.
Simon, there is a detail that you can check, which makes it actually you can do it like not a grid exactly, but top bar view with 3 tabs. Now, what he is mentioning is they are not actually going from, I don't know, fifth one is not going and like rolling around like Pinterest that we have. Now he is saying it like it's switching the status between these tabs.
Right.
Just each
the question
tab has
is-
grid
Right.
of
How
orders.
about let's okay.
Yeah.
In a minute. Let's one thing at a time. Right, let's wrap this. Let's do this actually.
No, I get it
Yeah.
now.
Huh? Oh. That's what it's ink dot. Oh, ink dot image. And then I have a so let's make this into a series of Yeah, okay. Let's do this final.
Just out of curiosity, Jim, when an order moves to a different tab, is it being inserted in the top or the bottom?
Probably bottom.
I mean, I understand you read it left to right, top to bottom, but I'm wondering where a new one's going to be inserted.
It really doesn't make any difference right now. Any of that.
Right, Jim, but newest first or oldest first? Okay.
Right. Okay, now let's see. These. The subtree should be keyed. It's just annoying, isn't it? Have less than. This is going to be painful. Let's do a copy of everything in here and just simplify this. See what happens. What can go wrong? Right, so I'm going to delete this one. Nothing happened. Because I'm building from the wrong list? Yes. Start again. Yeah.
There we go.
This is really annoying. Right. All right. So let's just do this slightly different way and then it should be fine. Take out animate positions. We're going to just make a little, I don't know, stack item. I know, grid item. Grid item. Oops. Right. That's fine. We'll do a rectangle coming in. All right. What I'm trying to do here, just to be clear, so I just got rid of that sort of confusion. We need each item in the stack. So at the moment, when it rebuilds, they're not keyed. They're all siblings that are similar to each other, which basically because of this builder that's in here, and that's what's throwing off the rebuilding. It's not going to animate because they're all getting created fresh each time we do set state. So we need to bring up our fetching of the item out of the list outside of the building of the items. So that's where it comes into here. So we'll say something like children equals, and then we can say like data.map item to list. And this gives me a chance to write code, but it's not part of the stack. So now we can bring up these pieces into here. And the X and Y can actually be reverse generated by the index. So we'll have this, and we'll index this map and then do that. So we should have index and item. He says. Okay. Question mark? What? Why is that accepting one parameter, not two? Is this trying to map entries? No, so it should be list still. Oh, someone's sniffing really loud. Right. Right. Yeah, okay, that's fine. We'll just do it this way. I'm figuring that out right now. So we're saying this is one of these will be, yeah, so EL1 will be the index, 2 will be the item. So this will be our URL. This will be item. We don't look up in the data. Do we need the X and Y? We'll need the X and Y. So we can reverse out the X and Y. So that would be the X position will be the index. Let's call this this. So X is going to be the index modulus 3. Yeah, and then Y will be no, I don't want that. I want
that should be it, just the percent sign, right?
And then hang on. Yeah, that should be what I want. It's on that side. I thought it was. You can't do that with the modulus. Okay, that's fine. I'll just do this. Oh, you always get it integer with modulus. Of course. Somehow I'm feeling I'm breaking something here and it's not right, but we'll see. We'll soon find out when I do this. Right. And then each item is keyed. Key it to the item. That way it matches. Let's see what we get. Okay. Well, at least we built some items. There you go. Look at that. Way. Now I think
that was really
there's
cool.
Now I think there's room here to obviously speed it up and stagger it, and we stagger it based on its index. We don't have to use index. I'm just using that as a way of doing it quickly.
think we may have some lag. Jim, you're nice just came through.
Oh. I mean, Jim, what is the kind of like, yeah, what is it that you were kind of expecting from this? Like, is this kind of the animation you were kind of trying to cope with, something like this?
I think the only thing missing from this is different sizes.
Yeah, insert will work too. Yeah. So we could actually.
Well, and the thing is, if oldest is first, Jim, wouldn't it just be adding it to the bottom when it's newest? So I don't know if there would be any animation for adding a new item.
Doesn't matter. Like you, wherever it is, you want to add one and it inserts it. Right?
He was saying that it would insert last, and the oldest would be first.
You might be scrolled to the bottom. Right, it still has to like the point is still want to animate it in, right? I mean, like you could do a couple of things, right?
There are 3 different tabs. You're on the tab that it's being removed from, so you'll never see it being added to anything, because by the time you could switch over to the other tab, it's already done and added, right?
I don't really care about tabs or any of that, so we're not even talking about that. Like that's not.
Well, you're talking about the insertion might animate, but
is it true to say the grid might be empty? The grid might be empty too, right? Like there's plenty of reasons to have it insert. Anyway, so I mean this works right now, right? And then we could just like wrap this in a. In fact, we'll just do it down here. Like the problem here is that obviously we got all this, and what we actually need to do is wrap our stack in a sized box. I mean, this is really lame, but it works. But it's kind of. Oh,
jeez. Okay, so Jim is saying my point is valid, however, comma. This is used by multiple people with WebSockets. So other operators might be on the tab that it's being inserted into.
As I said, many reasons for the data to change, right? So the content side is going to be our constraints, max width, and then the height is going to be based off of the number of items right now. I feel scope creep, yeah. So I'm trying to hold it down.
I was just thinking doing different sizes at this point would be tough enough.
I suppose index, they don't get names, do they? It's an unnamed. And then you can only name the parameter anyway. So that's kind of annoying. Anyway. Right, what was I saying? Height, yes. So let's do data. For the moment, let's do data length over 3. Times. Okay, so now we should have a scrolling list. There you go. So we have a scrolling list that we can delete items from. All right, and we can keep deleting as they're being animated. Who cares? Right. So that's nice. So okay, let's see now. So the complexity. So what's coming? So what we're doing here is we're taking advantage of the fact that the grid will lay out. So its stack will lay out anywhere on the screen. We're taking advantage of the fact that we know we've pre-calculated the size of the scrolling viewport by laying out everything, right? Or understand the layout of everything, should we say? So how many items, Jim? Is this going to be thousands of items? Is this like a few items on the screen? You know, where are we at? We're not doing questions, Shari, anymore. Because I mean, like depends on the number of items as to whether or not if you're recycling or not, right? That changes the approach. 0 to 1,000, from 0 to 1,000 on average, yeah. So right now this works. I'm just thinking we're taking advantage of the fact that the stack and the position to working in tandem to lay things out, and have to recreate that like behavior in a sliver or sliver sense, which really isn't the way that slivers lay out. I think you're kind of like, can you, Jim, can you know the height of the contents that you want to display? This is annoying. That's what this is. So having what we've done now is a cheap trick, right? Like it works. I would do this for 1,000 items because you're going to have 1,000 widgets and all of the widgets inside those widgets to like render every tile. So if you've got like 5, let's say you got 20 order lines or something, I don't know what you do showing this order blob, then you're going to be displaying all those widgets, right? For X thousand times over, right? Like it's just not feasible. You can still achieve this. It's just harder work, right? Like it's all achievable. I mean, what we've got here is again, we're basing this on a grid now. Just because it's quite quick, but we can lay this out any rectangle we want on the screen, right? And it'll work. So I'm thinking we could stagger this right now, and that kind of gets you to level 1, and then you can return for level 2, basically. So let's time box this, and then we'll just get this staggered, right? So the grid items, they stay as they are. This doesn't change. This is how we want to lay it out. What we're doing here with the layout builder is kind of, and the stack is kind of like a cheap trick. You don't really want to use layout builder if you can avoid it. The way we're doing it here is workable. To choose, like the reason why we can do this ahead of time is because we know that there's 3x3. I wonder if we can actually, should we have a look at Yeah, look, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm just, oh. It's more about the fact that these just don't animate, right? And you're just not going to get that with this. Maybe it's something that we could look at patching and oh, this is Raman. Ramin, yeah. So we could talk to him about like adding, maybe we do a PR and add animation to this, and not time, obviously, not now.
Simon?
Yes.
Before you get too much further, Jim is going to have to work with this code tomorrow. So you probably want to throw some comments in there.
No.
Use AI for that. I love it for that. Look at Scott. Seriously. If I get somebody else's code, if we get somebody else's code and I can't quite follow it, I asked Gemini, because it's Flutter, even the free version, asked Gemini to comment my code. It was awesome. We have an FCAIC discussion about that.
Right. Let's.
I've done that, Frank.
At half speed, not double speed.
I think we can do this. Wow, Ezra. Wow.
Oh, oh my God. Okay.
It's nice that you can tell the difference. Mikey,
Mine is more like a gun shooting. Maybe that's why.
yeah,
I'm totally
not my other keyboard.
I think Jim, like we can reassess that, but it's more about the fact that you're then taking you then have to. It's something that we actually did last week. These are the complex problems which are actually really interesting, right? To me, at least. Let's say you've got this staggered grid view. It's actually the same problems that are already solved by Raman's package here, which is about determining what proportion of the screen that you're laying out and where it should be laid out to. That's one problem, right? The next problem is, okay, when I remove an item, now I've got two sets of layout, right, where I want widgets, where they were and where they are next on as they animate to. And basically, you need to tell them to animate to those positions. So there's a communication here that's going on of lay out the widgets, but the widgets, you telling the widgets what their next layout position should be, which is what we're doing right now. So let me explain. This is the trick of what we're doing right now. So what's happening right now is the first time this builds, the animated positions are getting placed in this grid, right? Then what happens when we delete an item, because of the key on these animated positions, the state is maintained on those widgets, the ones that are already on the screen, right? And they're being told, here's your new position, rectangle to be into, and then they'll animate to them. Whereas on a sliver like list, what you're actually saying is lay it out and position these widgets there at that point. There's no like future you need to be in. So the trick would be to use that layout algorithm to do like the kind of extent matching, as it were, like work out what the extents are for the scroll, but to tell the widgets this is the rectangle you need to be in. They update themselves, and then and then that's where they're being rendered by the parent. So there's like a give and take.
I'm confused by this.
Yeah. Well, it's just not a thing it was built to do, right? Like it's not.
He's asking if that's correct.
I mean, I haven't run the animated grid view, so I don't even know what. I can't remember what it last looks like when you animate. So sure, probably. Right. Let's crack this out. Right. So let's. I'm just debating about like the best way to do the staggering. If I can steal something from this, go paste to it, remote online, or if we can like have a quick look and see what it's got on the Staggered quilted. Get geometries, constraints, cross-axis count. So the real problem with these things are that you need to lay out a widget, know its size, to know where to position the rest. I know a way of doing this with render objects. I just don't want to be doing this forever. And other things I've got to get back to. So maybe this is something we can do. So let's. All right, 1 second. Let's have a quick look here. Anime positioned is updating a positioned. Position should be a parent data, if I remember rightly. Apply parent data. Yes, this is. Parent data, which is stat parent data. There's something here. I'm really liking this. Something here. Like being able to use the animate position with something different. I'm just wondering if I can take advantage of any of this. I don't think it's for another time. Confused. Yeah, like there's a lot more to that than I would like to care to look at right now. Let's stagger this. We need a. See, the thing is, like, Jim? Do you want it? But you want it based off actual child size, right? Yeah, it's not really. That's not really necessarily the problem, Frey. The problem here is one of look. So what I'm doing right now is quick and easy because they're all the same size. So I can predict where an item is going to be before we lay out the previous child, right? In what Jim is looking for, where each size of each child is determined by itself, we have to wait until this child actually reports its size during the layout phase before you can lay out the next child, right? So from what I can think about how to approach this, the only way you're going to approach this is with a render object because you need to have that's the fact, right? You need to have one before you can do the next. Intrinsic height is how you would do it anyway, Jim. It's more about the fact that you need to position all the widgets, right? Right now, I'm positioning the widgets during build based on a grid, right? So I'm choosing that on a 3x3 grid based on the width and the height of the parent, which is in this case the size of the window, right? And I'm basically predicting at this point before we even render it, before anything gets laid out, what size it's going to be and what shape it's going to be, right? Which is fine. I'm forcing it into these sizes and it works, right? But as soon as I want this widget to determine its size, then that predicts where the rest of them are going to be positioned, which now becomes a layout, not a build problem, right? So, for example, here in this code here, there's no way I can modify this code in front of us to do that as it sits with the layout build because I need to lay out this widget here, this grid item, get its size based on how big it is laid out to be, to then position the next one, right? So this is an exact example of a layout, right? So we could do we could like shortcut this, at least in this situation, with a custom multi-child layout, since we don't care about the parent size. The next, even if we're to do that, the next problem comes in how big do we want it to be. Let me let's see if we can get something going on here. I did some code previously. I don't want to be on here like forever, so I can't. I've got some ideas that work. I need to just I know how to do this, but again, I'm not going to do it now. It's not it's going to take time. Basically, what we need to do, custom render object for rendering the grid, doing the staggered layout. Now, I can do the staggered layout now, but you're not going to get your animation now because we need to, again, report the widths and heights. The widgets need to report the widths and heights. That's different to what the animated positions are going to be. So we can't really use animated position out of the box, which doesn't matter. It's just parent data. Like it would be easy to make our own animated position for our own custom render object. It's just, yeah, it's going to take longer than I'm going to put into right now. We'd be here for another 2 hours, which is not what we're doing.
I've been helping today so much, but I have to leave.
Yeah, well, me too. That's what I'm saying. Like we're not going to do this now.
Bye.
Let me post this code, and then nice. Thank you for coming, Steph.
I just stopped by to say hi. That's all I did.
Oh, hello.
I've been watching since almost the beginning. Bye.
Ciao. So I mean, if you want to give this a stab, we definitely put you in the right direction. It'd be is this too far? Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of talks around. I really want to do it. But I can't. So I have to wait. But the principles are the same, right? What's happening right now with this is the stack. The anime positions are reporting their parent data, which is part of the rendering system. Whatever rectangle it needs to be based on its animation that the widget is tracking, and the stack is just drawing it at that location, right? So it's kind of twofold. What we actually need is a render object that replaces stack, that basically calculates out the where all the widgets need to be based on a staggered grid, and then it tells the widget you need to be in this position using parent data. Then when the widget well, no, you can do it with there's various ways to do it. I'm not going to go into that. You can do it with buildings and other things, but basically tells it where it needs to be. It then can animate its animators to that new position, and then the positions reported back is where it gets painted to. And when any of those positions change, it sort of repaints the screen. So it's that kind of like communication with the children and the parent that makes this possible. With deletion, it's the same thing. So we've done deletion, but with addition, it's the same thing, right? So in here, if I was to do data add, like want. So we get the first half of the list, and then just quickly do this as an example. Yeah.
Okay, but that's adding from top left, right?
Sure. I mean, add it wherever you want.
Yeah, I believe you wanted to add from bottom right.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
It won't make any difference.
Yeah, he would just
It's
like
just-
change the calculation.
I'm interested
Gustavo,
that
we stopped taking questions over about an hour and a half ago. We're deep in the live coding section. Come back next week for more questions, though.
same time, same place next week. How did that crash? That bugged me. New data has a finite set. We can move and insert set item. This. I guess we can do is do a and then so see how fast we go. Okay, yeah. Let's insert from position number 2. Yeah. And position number no. Right, I'll just yeah, pick wherever you want, right? there's an example. I'll post that in right now.
So really what you could do is insert from position number length of the string, and then that'll make it last. Look at that, you got a compliment.
What are we calling this? Animated something animated. Well, it's not staggered. I'm going to call it animated image. Rename that. Animated image.
Animated grid view on steroids.
18th June. Right.
So how many people here are going to be there next week in New York? Yeah, sorry, Ezra. I'm going to miss you.
I'm going to miss you too. Maybe we will see you sometime this year. I don't know. Flutter and Friends. Some people need to do some stuff.
That's my Flutter and Friends is one of my favorites. If you're in Europe, definitely go. If you're in the US and can afford it, then go.
And now we are not lucky to send CFPs. They just said that they got over 170 CFPs or something. I don't even know what we'll do. Let's see.
Yeah, that conference has now built a reputation for being one of the most fun.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, Jim, if you've got time to leave us till next, so Jim just replied to the chat here, right? You're welcome. Yeah, if you've got time to have a play around with it, maybe come up with an example or a drawing or an image of what you're looking for, then we could look into that next week potentially. There's time to it probably the week after, to be fair, because of the conferences. We'll see. Right. Well,
Kelly, you're in the same position Simon is.
Well, yeah.
And depending, I might have to make modifications to mine, but we're going to see what happens.
Cool. Right. Thanks everyone for coming. And
thank you.
We'll see you same time, same place next week, hopefully. But just we'll tweet it out as usual and post it on Blue Sky and Mastodon and Slack and other places. So keep wise. Subscribe, all that jazz. Yeah,
good luck with your presentation, maps and everything.
All right then. All right, thanks everyone, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.